Hi, everybody. My name's Keith Blackmore with the Spark Animation Festival. Today, we have two very special guests. We would consider them the dynamic duo, really. We have the director, Erick Oh, and the producer, Kane Lee, of the film Namu. And we're going to be talking all about that film. Gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Spark Animation Festival.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Really honored to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Well, Namu is a very personal, deeply personal story for you. And yet, it's one that all of us can identify with. It was inspired by the life of your grandfather, Erick. And it follows his life, his birth to death. And as he grows from a boy to a man, we see then also that tree, the metaphor with the tree growing and branching out in that. And we see good moments and bad moments in his life. But we identify with all of that. So you obviously have a deep, abiding love for your family and for your grandfather. Tell us, what does your grandfather mean to you?
Wow. My answer could be a bit of a spoiler, but I can just tell you right, back at to you that my grandfather has been a guiding star for my life. So basically, how he lived when he was with us. He was a professor who dedicated whole his life to push the, to make improve the education in Korea back in 60s and 70s. So like, and he wanted to make the society and community better, and so that really has been an inspiration for me as a filmmaker and as a person too. So as a person, as an artist, that has been how he's been inspiring me.
Right. So when did you start developing his story, his life story, into your story, into an idea for a story?
So basically, I wouldn't say Namu is about his story. It's more about the time I spent with him inspired me to actually make this story. So basically, and that's probably why you feel like, even though it's coming from a very deep personal space, but it came out as a very universal story that everyone can find themselves in the story. So basically, my grandfather passed away about 10 years ago. During the grieving process, of course, I wasn't sure what to even feel because I was so devastated because it was a bit of a sudden loss. So everybody in our family was kind of grieving and didn't know what to do. And then that's when I felt like I want to honor his life. But while doing that, I kind of want to actually celebrate our everyone's life in general. So I put together a little story about tree of life, tree of memories that you get to grow your own tree, but not in a very natural way, but by in a very musical, surrealistic way by putting your object and belongings in the tree, right? So that core idea of Namu was already designed 10 years ago, but I didn't actually take it out to the world yet. Probably because I was still yet emotionally very overwhelmed, and I didn't know how to process. I had that idea and kept it in my mental drawer for a long, long time. And then finally, I don't know, like about 3 years ago, I met Kane and we were talking about this idea. And Kane was the one who encouraged me to, hey, why don't we push it and take it out to the world and see how it turns out to a story. And then that's when I got the courage actually. So and then afterwards, I put little more ideas and based on the core idea already developed many years ago. And then, yeah, after thanks to many people's support and love and help, and including Baobab artists, we were able to take it to the world.
Awesome. So one of the prominent parts in the film that you address is that of your grandfather as an artist, but then his failure and the crisis that he has. You want to speak of that?
Basically, being an artist in this movie is really almost like a metaphor, a symbol, like whatever, it can be anything. It could be because, as I said, my grandfather himself was an educator. I'm an artist, and art is definitely something I know the most about. So, but my hope was to art can be anything in this, illustrated as anything you love, even the relationship, that I just portrayed in the film, the significant other you meet, that could be your loved ones, but at the same time, it could be something you really, really passionate about. So it's kind of like getting it and letting it go. I felt like life is constant, yeah, I don't know, like extension of continuing those, coming in and letting it go. So
Yeah.
probably that's what I wanted to actually touch upon. Yeah, through the medium of art. Yeah.
And the style in which you did it as well. It's very simple. Yeah, you use a very elegant line and great use of color.
Thank you.
And yet through that, you really tap into that universal experience that we all have. Yeah. It could have been, because you were working in the medium of VR to tell your story. Why did you choose that medium of VR? Because normally we think of VR, it's going to be something that's hyper realized, that's photorealistic and such, but yours is quite the opposite.
Right. That is so true. There are a couple of reasons why basically Namu was designed in two different mediums, as you touched upon. There is a VR version where you can experience this piece with your headset on, and then there is cinematic version that you can actually watch it as a film, right? And then there are literally two different mediums. It gives you kind of different experiences. But the reason why I did that from the first place is because I thought it's such a spiritual journey to yourself. I want the viewer to be part of the story and really take a look at deep into this character's life as well as your own life, as close as you can, right? So that was one of the reasons why, I naturally, without even thinking about technical aspects, okay, VR is the one, it will be the right medium to tell this story, right? And second of all, yeah, as you said, as soon as you think about VR, we do think about all these technical aspects and 3D dimensionality and all this realism and all that. But I kind of wanted to actually like come from totally different opposite direction where, okay, VR is actually, another way to actually look at VR is very, very handcrafted in a way, because it's not like you're putting your monitor and screen and then looking into, your character from the distance. You are actually living with this character together. So how actually real is this? So how, hand touching it can be. So I think that's why we ended up using a VR medium for this. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Kane about that in a minute, but I want to carry on with your story and making it, because when we look again, not just the style, but also VR is this aspect of being interactive and immersive. But your choice was a little more restrained and more lyrical in that choice. So tell us about that.
Basically, in my opinion, of course, a lot of, this is my personal opinion, but, even though you're using VR, I felt like you don't have to use everything about VR, so even though, VR, of course, you are so easily get to be captivated and tend to use so many functions and things that are possible in VR elements. But that's when you start losing, move away from your story and the core message, because at the end of the day, everything you use is pick and choosing to actually serve this, the story. That being said, of course we could have done interaction or like some sort of like different things you could do in VR, but at the end of the day, we ended up choosing what's really best for this story. So okay, it's more about you and then following the emotional journey, and of course you have a bit more freedom that you can actually take a look closer at what the boy is drawing, for example. And then when it rains on you. When it's a thunderstorm, you're sitting in a thunderstorm, your perspective changes, when as you grow with the tree and the baby. And then those are really the minimal, seamlessly implemented as a VR feature. But as I've been repeating, technology shouldn't be on the nose. It should be just, you shouldn't feel the technology, in a good film. You just need to actually sense the good storyline, the message, and that's all that matters. So, and that is why we, that's how now we came out.
Well, so to that point, the best films,
Yeah.
it's always about story and character, right? And yet what
Totally.
you're saying to us, and you're telling us that you made the best uses of VR to tell your story. So in that way, VR changed your approach, or would you say it did? It changed your approach to storytelling?
Actually, yes and no. The overall direction, has been always consistent and the same, like the emotional journey, and then the core message we like to deliver, and then all this like things you get to experience in different venues and stages in different life, in life stages in your life. And then all those core ideas have been like always the same. That has been the guiding star to use actually this medium. But of course, when you're in it and when you're actually producing it, for example, it was my first time actually using VR. So of course, you guys have no idea how much I learned through this process of like using VR. And then and little things, of course, little or big things kept on inspiring me. So of course I thought about, oh, maybe I could try a different approach. But that doesn't mean that our final destination has changed. So that's how I adopted.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
Kane, let's talk about that. You're the head of content there at Baobab Studios there, right? Now, this is this really cool intersection of art and technology coming together. Now, how was it? Was it a challenge for you with this kind of storytelling to do it tell those stories at Baobab?
I mean, it's been a incredible but very trying experience to be on the sort of bleeding edge of what our technology and art can do. But it's been something where we've really embraced taking risks, making mistakes, and learning stuff along the way. And so I think this opportunity to work with someone like Eric, who his track record through, Erick Oh throughout his entire career, he's constantly challenging himself. He's always doing a new project, pushing himself as a storyteller, as an animator, as an artist, not being beholden to what one medium or what CG animation is supposed to look like, or what movies from Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks are supposed to be like. So, when he brought this project to us, we felt like there was this kindred quality to what he was trying to do as an artist and what we're trying to do as a studio, which is to continue to push ourselves, push the boundaries of animation, because we have so much more to learn and to discover in this wonderful medium. And we can use like tools, like real-time tools, like we used on Namu, in ways that can support a more restrained sort of vision. So you mentioned that Eric focused more on lyricism, versus like going in there and creating a lot of interactivity. And I completely agree. I mean, I think after we premiered it at Sundance, Filmmaker magazine said referenced someone who had called this the filmic equivalent of haiku, right? And like if we can go back to like things that are very traditional and like bring us back to what made us fall in love with storytelling and animation and use the latest tools to do that, then I think we're, I think we're finding really great ways to not throw out the baby with the bathwater of what we love to do as artists and storytellers and filmmakers, but to use technology in service of the things that are time and time again what brings us together: good stories, characters we remember, walking a mile in someone else's shoe, embracing the specificities of that storytelling, but then also being open to the universality of it so that we can all sort of connect through a short little film like Namu.
Yeah, because I think you're absolutely right, and the pendulum is swinging that way because a lot of people there was an over reliance on technology, and to that because they wanted to see where it was pushing, and they were pushing it with the art, but the pendulum swinging back so that it's still art and storytelling, and that's where the best films are coming out of. You mentioned some of the digital tools. Well, you didn't mention them specifically, but what are some of the digital tools that were being used there at the studio?
Well, the primary tool we implemented is called Quill. It's native to the Oculus platform, and it actually enabled Eric and our team to hand paint every frame of this film in a 360-degree space. So when you're asking about like, does it remove us from the art? Actually, it brings us closer to the art. We are actually, the way the artists are actually like hand drawing and hand painting each object You see, like we don't even, and we have to repaint the lighting on everything too. Like it's not, it's that granular. There's no interpolation used in this experience. So it is actually more closer to like stop motion or something that is that handcrafted. But we were able to actually use these real-time technology tools to put on headsets and work with a team, our dream team. Literally, we found all the best quill artists in the world from across 3 different continents. And
Really?
we wouldn't be able to do that with a stop motion set in one location, right? So we were doing the same thing, but we were using technology to bring us back to the roots of what makes animation feel, tangible and real and visceral and all those things that that made us fall in love with it in the first place.
Exactly. Well, Eric, you were mentioning earlier about there were some challenges for you. You're learning along the way. So it was Quill. It sounds like you were learning, and you were thrown into the deep end in the pool, as it were. So what were the challenges? What were the benefits of working with Quill for you?
Actually, you know what? It was I was one of the artists who actually pushed that Quill supposed to be the main software for this, because as Kane said, Quill is particular software that enables artists to be just intuitive, like without being blocked by the technical limitations. So basically what you saw from the film is animated in a whole new different medium, coming from an animator's background. Like I've done so many different types of animation, but how we animated Namu and created Namu is like a whole mixture, combined version of it. Like you actually literally paint the character, almost like sculpting. Like, so all the brushstrokes and lighting you saw is all literally done by, directly done by each artist, so we hand stroked and paint everything, in 3-dimensional space. And how we move is, we skip all the modeling, rigging, anything all like that, but it certainly becomes the puppet, and then you start actually move around in 3-dimensional virtual space. So how you animate is like a puppeteer, almost like, so stop motion plus CG animation plus 2D animation, that's all, can come together. And then that's how we actually ended up making Namu. So as you can hear from me, how exciting and how challenging at the same time can be, right?
Yeah.
But it was really fun journey, we got to say, yeah.
Is there anything you would like to redo? When you look at it, you say, "Oh, I wish I could do that over," because now you know Quill even better. I guess part of the project was I'm learning it as at the same time as doing it.
First of all, so people use Quill. Artists are inspired by this medium, but basically this medium is for basically designed for a small group of people. It's really for one artist, one single painting. But what we did was we became a pioneer that maybe we can make a film, maybe we can collect a team together. So basically we are fortunate that we were able to get some direct help from Oculus, who developed this software. And then we were the one who are finding the bugs and then finding errors or things that has to be improved, because we were literally the pioneers and pushing the medium bar of this medium.
You're the beta tester.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
That being said, if you knew, maybe we could make it a little more simpler, but I don't know. But maybe thanks to that we didn't actually we didn't compromise, or we didn't sacrifice any of our vision. Maybe that really actually pushed us further in both, in terms of both technical aspect, also creative aspects, I think. Yeah.
Oh, so cool. So you're both talking about how you also share the project around the world, 3 continents. And even right now with this interview, Kane's in Miami, Eric's in South Korea, I'm in Vancouver. So COVID, it didn't stop. It actually, I think it complemented this digital pipeline working around the world. Tell us about working with these other Quill artists.
So basically, what was so interesting was we started this project before COVID pandemic happened. So we were already thinking about this remote work. Yeah.
Pipeline.
So pipeline, basically. Yeah.
Well, it was a debate. It was like, do we get everyone, in the same geography, or do we pick the A team, but they're in completely different time zones? And
that's it, right? I mean,
production manager Nico is going to have a nightmare for, scheduling every meeting. And Eric, I think we did choose the remote option right before the pandemic, right?
I think so. And then thank God that really did that. And so we were already right before, almost like a couple of months before the pandemic hit, we already had our own hard time adopting this remote workstation relationship.
We went through the
and then once we were so used to it, then the rest of the world was kind of following our, so yeah, the production
get on board or get left behind, right? It's like, you better join us or you're not with us. That's cool. So obviously it worked out very, very well, and you're getting great response to the film as well at different festivals around the world. So Kane, what's next for your studio?
I mean, there's so much going on. I can't even tell you, but what I can say is that we are
like literally. You can't tell me.
There are things I
signed an NDA.
No, but we are. We've really everything that we learned from every project, from Namu, from the one before that, Baba Yaga, from all. I think we had 6 or 7 projects before that. They are all things that are becoming a part of this amazing toolkit that we're developing as a studio and with our artists and our directors, where we can pull what we learn and the things that we develop in those things, and we can apply them into the medium of animation in other ways. So we are actually working with streamers right now. We are working on movies, we're working on series, we are doing visual storytelling through graphic novels and books, and exploring other ways, other formats, new formats with animation that we've never done before, that are just on a storytelling level, super exciting. We're working with teams, Eric introduced us to so many artists from around the world. I mean, we are working with artists and animators from all over the world. Everything is sort of like, as certain doors have closed with the pandemic, other doors have opened. And so we're just looking for those, openings to really create a different kind of studio to work with, we're run by, a Maureen, who's a CEO, who's, on the crossroads of Silicon Valley and Hollywood, which is in the middle of a lot of disruption. She comes from immigrant parents and had to work her way through very sort of male-dominated industries. And so it's sort of like in our DNA as a studio to be scrappy, to be independent, to always be pushing ourselves to the limits and trying new things. But at the same time, like the example of Namu, we love the stuff that we fell in love with as kids. We want to bring that back, but we want to use, we don't want to be stuck in terms of practices and a way of doing things and a mindset that might still be there at some of the more legacy type of institutions and studios. We just see all the change that's happening right now as something we have to embrace. It's something that thematically Eric, we tackled in Namu, like this idea of change and how we respond to it, and how we take a moment to pause at certain key moments in our life. And certainly, it was kind of weirdly poetic and lyrical that this was, and sad, and that this was all happening during the pandemic as well. We were creating a story about change and disruption and life and death, and looking at the choices we make, and what's happening with our tree of life, and how we're growing or not growing, and it wasn't lost on anyone in our crew, anyone on our team, that we were in a way creating something that is very much, a creation of today, of what we're all going through right now as artists and as humans. So
the film will live long because it has that human touch to it, universally touching. But back to the VR, that aspect, like I think again, especially with your studio, with Larry and Eric there, helming it, and yourself, Kane, we weren't certain for a few years where VR would go. Where is this technology going? And how can we use it? How can we enjoy it and such? Is it just going to be Viewmaster, a modern day Viewmaster, or Thomas Edison's kinetoscope? But now see what you're doing and bringing forward, and with people like Erick Oh and others, it's awesome. And we're seeing some
we've been really lucky. We've been growing our bench in terms of talent, of visionary filmmakers like Eric. and each time we bring someone in new into the DNA of our studio, they 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 bring us a perspective that changes the way we're looking at VR and how that's going to shape the future. Like Eric talks a lot about how do we keep the poetry of something? How do we make the technology invisible? He really helped us see Namu, and so we created a VR experience that was very different than the more highly interactive experiences that we've created so far. We worked, with a young French VR filmmaker who brought in live actors, and taught us how to create, this sort of hybrid production that brought in the elements of theater. And Eric Darnell has been embracing this infusion of new talent and perspectives, because he really wants our studio not to be driven by one house style or one point of view, but by a group of people who are similarly minded in terms of, like, we want to help shape the future of animation in some way. And VR is not an end for us. It's something that's a part of our toolkit. It's something that we're in love with. It's something that we get to play in. But it is one part of everything that we do. So it's always going to be our stories, our characters first, our love of animation, and using not being afraid of the latest technologies to push forward good things. Not all technology leads to Black Mirror.
Yeah. No, we look forward to, and it's so exciting now to hear that and to see what Baobab is going to be bringing in the future. Now, Eric, for yourself, Dam Keeper's Poem, opera, last year's Oscar-nominated film, Namu. What's next for you?
A lot is happening. I mean, I'm really fortunate that I'm now in the position where I could really keep on challenging myself to better filmmaker, and also as a media artist, because as you even listed the list of my films, my focus has been really trying something new, bringing a new voice and vision to this industry. And then, as much as I'm highly excited and focusing on this traditional storytelling, media storytelling, at the same time, I love to keep on challenging myself to see what else can we do with this beautiful medium of animation. It could be VR, installation, or media art. So yeah, I'm kind of like designing, new project, that's a little more opera-like. At the same time, total like traditional, feature or series, or that that really celebrates actual traditional storytelling. So yeah, I mean, like, in short, I'll keep on doing what I've been doing, telling the stories, not being afraid of, and being restricted by the mediums or things like that, and then keep on pushing myself to be a better artist and a filmmaker. Yeah.
That's nice. Well, let's one last question and go back to
Yeah,
Namu.
sure. Yeah.
You shared with us again that very personal story of your grandfather and sharing his life with us. What would you like us to learn from your grandfather's experience?
At the end of the day, it's really just be sincere. I don't know. I don't think it's the matter about making a judgment. Is it good or bad? Is it but it's more like being sincere to yourself, and then just live a good life, and then just keep on thinking. It's not like just easily letting it go, but just keep seeing yourself from a very telescopic, also, but at the same time microscopic perspective, so that you could just keep on seeing yourself in a very most sincere way. And then at the end of the day, no matter what your shape of your tree looking like, it's you, right? It's the tree you made on your own. So I think that's what it is, and that's what the message my grandfather has been trying to actually teach me when he was with us, and then that's what I kind of wanted to convey through the film, I think. Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful thought, and we all want to make our own tree. We all are making our own tree.
True. Yes.
And how we are remembered beyond this time is that tree of life that we've created. Thank you so much for Namu. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Kane. I've really enjoyed this conversation so much, and an excellent, excellent film. Thank you.
Thank you so much.